Today I'm working on a 1996 Four Winds boat that has a Volvo Penta SX outdrive, and I had a growl when I turned right or left. I would have a growl in the back unit, so I figured I either had a bad gimbal bearing or the U-joints were bad. So I tore it apart. I already tore it apart. I already got this far, and I said, well, I might as well make a video on it and point out a couple things I couldn't ever find in any of the other videos. So the bellows are bad. The exhaust one's okay, it's just cracked, but this one for the U-joint is bad. Best way to tell if it's bad or not is just shine a light, flashlight up in there, and you can see light come through and you'll know it's bad. I already took everything out, so I'm just going to pretend like I'm doing it again. This is the gimbal bearing that was in there. I use this tool to get it out. Honestly, I really don't think you need this tool. I think you can just use a three jaw puller will get it out just fine. On this tool here, you push it into the gimbal bearing, and then this rod here, you push this up, and it pushes this plunger up inside the bearing to hold it so that won't collapse. And when it's in there, you basically just screw this out and it pulls the bearing out. As far as getting the bellows out, they're pretty easy. The exhaust one's going to be on the bottom, this one's going to be on top. You need a 5/16. Unscrew the clamps on both of those, and this one will pull out, but you have to do the exhaust one first. You'll need a snap ring plier and squeeze this, pull it out of there, and then it'll fall right out. This is a 1996 model, so I think on 1995 and up they do not use a gasket here like they do on the old OMC ones. They have a gasket that goes all the way around to seal out the water, to keep the water from going into the U-joint area. But on this model, what they use is the bellow itself. The bellow itself, this right here, is the seal that goes up to the outdrive unit. And another thing was I used the alignment tool to check everything first before I took everything apart. And we'll do that again when we're done putting everything back in. Another thing I'd like to do first is pump out the old grease out of the grease line there and put the new grease in, because I got the proper grease now. Let me show you what it is. Let's see. There, it's coming out green now. So it's green grease. This is what they recommend, is a Sierra, and it's the where's the number at? The 189200. Now this is good for everything. It's good for your U-joints, gimbal bearings, the splines, the trailer bearings, everything. So just buy the one grease. You don't need to buy 3 different greases. So on this bearing installer tool, I have to set where this piece goes on this bar. I have to drill a hole in this bar somewhere, but I got to set it in there to see. So this bearing's going to be on here like this, right? And it's got to be on this lip. Alright, so what I'm going to do, I stole the idea from a guy in another video. Used the O-ring to set where it's at. Since I already have the bearing out of the outdrive, I'm going to slide that in there. Make sure that's pushed all the way flush up there, and then push this shaft in. Once I line it up, there it goes, and go in all the way until it stops, and then pull it back out carefully. And where that O-ring is where this is flush with the inside wall, but now I need to take the width of the bearing and subtract that. So I need to subtract that right there, and then I'm gonna drill a hole for this pilot bolt. Alright, so I got my hole drilled in the thing at the right spot. What I did here, since I'm gonna drive the seal in, I have a seal driving kit. I just duct taped it to it. This is aluminum and this is steel, so this aluminum won't hurt this when I pound on it. But I'm gonna put the seal in now. I'll put a little black RTV around it, just a thin coat. They want you to do a thin coat all the way around. It's kind of thick on top. Oh well. That should be good. And we're going to have this side facing out. Alright, so the RTV is holding the seal in right now. I'm going to put this in here and drive it in. Now I got the seal flush in there all the way around. It did take quite a few hits because it did go in kind of crooked, but I got it in there. Now I'm going to take some of that grease and put some grease around the seal. So on the gimbal bearing, there's two kinds actually. I bought the wrong one at first. The first one I bought was a seal bearing. It didn't have a hole on the side for the grease to go in, but I personally would rather have a greasable bearing because I take care of my equipment. So I put a little bit of grease in there just to start with. I marked this on this side where the hole is. I need to put it in there just like this because this grease hole over here goes this way into there, and I'm gonna drive it in with the with this tool. So I got to make sure I get it lined up first, and then I'll drive it in. In the manual, it says to put a little bit of motor oil on the outside first before you install it. So I'll just put a little bit of motor oil around it. I guess it makes it go in easier. And then make sure this does not move on you like it just did to me there. And then I'll go ahead and put it in. Alright, so I have the bearing setting in there, and I've got the black mark lined up with the grease fitting. I'll slide this in there. Alright, that's all the way in. Now I'll start pounding it in. Before I go any further, I wanted to pull it out and make sure that it was still lined up, that it did not move, and it's still in position. So I'm going to keep on pounding it in. I pulled it back out again and put some grease on the end of here so I see how far in I am, and I got a little ways to go. Once you get the bearing driven all the way in and it's and it turns freely, then you're good to go. And then you can pump some grease in there while you're spinning this out here, and get the grease all in that bearing. I'll do it until the grease starts coming out around the bearing there. Hopefully you can see in the video the grease has come around the inner race of the bearing. The grease has come out there, and it's also around the outer side of the bearing. So it's fully greased. I'm just going to wipe up some extra in there, wipe it up because it's not going to go anywhere now, and then get the rest of this back together. Now I'm at the point of installing the bellows. For the U-joint bellow, they say to put some gasket sealing compound on the gimbal side. These have a little flange, a little rib right here that fits in a little groove on the aluminum there. So these are going to seal well anyway, so it won't take a whole lot of sealant to put on there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. What's important is to get the grounding strap underneath this this clamp, because you don't want it to rot away and then you have a leak into the boat. Okay, I think the easiest way to get this back in without taking this assembly off is push this together like an accordion, slide it up under here, and then turn it sideways. I already have the hose clamp laying over the metal up there, and so I'm just gonna make it like an accordion, push it up in there, and then turn it, and then I can slide it over. Alright, I got a thin coat of RTV in there. I'm gonna push this up in there and turn it sideways. Alright, now I just got to get it up around. Now I got it up around in there. I'm gonna push it in further until it hits that groove. Yep. And now the hard part will be getting the ground clip on the hose clamp and tightening the hose clamp. And then I'll do this side next. To apply sealant on this side of the bellow, I put the bellow in place, and then I'm just going to pull a little piece out at a time, put some RTV, put it back, lift up another section, and put some in there. It's just a little bit, you don't need a whole lot. Then just pull that back over and put it on there. Make sure it fits down in that little groove. And now my hands are all RTV'd up, so can't get it off now. There we go. Now peel that section back, put some in there. Pull it back around, spread it out a little bit. Pull it back around, make sure that fit in place. And this is the part that seals up against your the lower unit. This seal right here will hit the metal part of that lower unit. I'll show you that later. Continue that all the way around. And of course, this is the exhaust bellow, and if it's got the holes in the bottom for the exhaust to come out, so make sure that the holes are on the bottom. I'm just going to slide that in there and screw it down on that side and pull this side over. This does not need any sealant. Alright, so I got the exhaust one hooked up. That was a little pain in the butt, getting the hose clamp on there and getting the ground strap on the hose clamp. I got the exhaust holes facing down. Now I just got to pull it through here like this. There we go. And then put the retaining ring back in. And then this should be done. And I'm running out of daylight, so I'll have to finish this tomorrow. And they'll go right there in that groove. There we go. So the bellows are done, and the gimbal and the seal's done. Now I just got to make sure all that RTV is pushed up good against the metal, so when I put the lower unit in, it won't bind up. I need it to go in there pretty easy. So this is the part I wanted to show you where the old bellow would mount up to the unit there and seal it off. It seals it here. That's why there's no water that gets into there. So they want you to put some sealant around here, or some grease. Actually, it's grease. Put grease around that part of it. So I'm gonna put this thing in now. So I ended up replacing the U-joints, also the bearings in there. There's a lot of videos online already on how to do U-joints, so I'm not going to go through all that. But the manufacturer, the book says to take this grease and rub it all over this, I guess to keep it from corroding. So we'll do that. We'll put some motor oil on these O-rings before we install it. So I greased up the spline, got motor oil on the O-rings. The U-joint's already lubed. Put some grease around this hub here, put some on the bellow there, and also put some on the screws, just at the shafts. That's what they recommend. So now I'll try to install. I highly suggest getting somebody to help you, because this thing is extremely heavy. I'm gonna try to manhandle it myself here. Don't forget your cable for shifting gears. Alright. And I forgot I put motor oil on the O-ring there too. Alright, I'm going to turn the shaft again on the prop. on in a little bit further. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to tilt it up a little bit. Let's see if that'll help it fall in. So what I did now is I put a bar underneath this to hold this up, and just threaded some nuts on, and then as I wiggle it back and forth, it goes in a little bit further at a time, and then I just tighten the nuts up a little bit. It's just getting those O-rings through that gimbal bearing, I think. Tighten those up and just wiggle some more, and it eventually goes in until you get to the thread locker. No, that was not there yet. Let's see. This is hard with one person, but it's doable. Alright, it's getting there. Okay. This one I can't get. I have to get a socket for that. There we go. It's almost all the way up. Now it's almost all the way up. I just tighten these up a little bit. I already did the top one. Just snug it up a little and wiggle it some more, and it'll go on in further. It's just about there. I'll tighten it up some more. Wiggle some more. Looks like it's only about a 1/16 away, so I'll tighten them up. So we'll do 25 foot-pounds first, and then I'll do 50 foot-pounds after that. We'll do the center ones first. Just go from this one to this one, and then do the top one and the bottom one, and then top one and bottom one. We'll just do it crisscross like that. Do that 25 foot-pounds and then 50 foot-pounds. Alright, so I made it all the way up onto it. Now we'll just do the torque wrench. There we go, 25 on that one. Already. Do the top one. Already 25. The bottom one. Done. Come on. Last one, the bottom here. Now we'll bump it up to 50 and be done. The only thing left is to thread on your shift linkage knob here and make sure this is level. Adjust it to where you need it, tighten down the nut, and then stick the cotter pin back in. Oh, put the washer on first. Cotter pin back in. Now I need to grease this up. What I'm going to do is take these plastic caps out, because I don't want all the grease to just go on that. Slide that in. It'll come out that one. There we go. Just had a little cockeyed there. Just thread a couple threads on there. We're going to try to push it all the way through. So I can get this one on. So I'm going to slide this plastic back in there. Okay, there we go. There we go. Slide it back. Okay. Alright, that's done. We'll do the front ones. Finally, cover. There we go. So this wasn't too bad of a project, as long as you have the proper tools to do the alignment and get the bearing out. 3-jaw puller. I'm not sure if you need the other one, but you may. This one is not in salt water, this is in fresh water, so it's probably why it was so much easier. So it's not a bad project.